Happiness through curiosity on TRS Clips.
I know Rajiv Malhotra. I've not read his latest books, but I have in the past interacted with him.
Okay.
So I have some general idea of his views.
We had him on the show 2 weeks ago where he said that AI is here. He's an artificial intelligence engineer. Like that's his actual profession. Sure. And he said that where AI is at, I'm sure you've kept up with what's happening with ChatGPT and all that. It's going to change multiple industries. I see it changing tech, like coders are using it to improve their code. Content creators are using it to improve content. And this is just level 1. It's going to keep going deeper. The thing is, these are American companies. And America owns the algorithms. Parallelly, have you watched The Social Dilemma? It's a Netflix documentary about
I watched it.
And I'm sure the government also thinks about algorithms and these kind of things.
Absolutely.
I
tweet about this stuff all the time.
Yeah, I'd love for you to shed some light on what your view on this algorithm problem is. Okay, and I'll tell you why. 2 reasons. One, I feel algorithms intensely govern human emotion in the modern day and human opinions. And the second reason is Rajiv sir spoke about how it will govern even geopolitical narratives, and it's a massive geopolitical weapon. So when you're using ChatGPT, it's actually American. It's a fantastic tool. It'll help you in your profession. It'll make you more money. But at the end of the day, you're strengthening an American algorithm. And ideally, there should have been Indian algorithms doing the same thing. I've also spoken to some AI engineers who claim that there is talent available in India, but nobody knows why Indians have not been able to build something like a ChatGPT by this point.
So many things are going on in India. By the way, AI is also being done in India. Many of these American countries are developing these things in India as well. So there's all kinds of things going on. So it's not like there is a box and this is happening. It's a messy world with all kinds of inflows and outflows and influences going on. Now, is it the case that algorithms are something we should pay attention to? So first of all, let me be clear. What is an algorithm? Basically, an algorithm is an equation or set of equations which allows for certain patterns to be play out. Okay, so this is what it is, so that the audience is clear. Now, in this particular space, one of the dangers here is, there are many, one of the dangers here is that people assume that because there are a set of equations, they are somehow objective truths, right? Now, the problem is that an algorithm can be set up to or may end up actually getting swayed in a particular direction because and be influenced by much more subjective things. But so, for example, I'll take something that people are already familiar with. People all go there and use Wikipedia. You know, everybody wants basic information on something, they go to Wikipedia. Now, what happens is, in fact, Wikipedia is edited by a group of editors. Okay? And over time, a hierarchy of editors has been created who are ideologically tilted in a particular way. You had Vikram Sampath on your show. I am there. Our Wikipedia entries are continuously tampered with. Okay. So all viewers in there, my Wikipedia entry is, not exactly, it's tilted in a particular way deliberately. Now, this is obvious, right? If somebody investigates and goes to the history, they can see that, there are systematically a bunch of people who are messing with it. In an algorithm, this is not very clear. And people who are doing ChatGPT, and they may ask a question about something, they will get a certain answer, and the impression they will get is that this is, objective truths. But in fact, it's not objective truths. The algorithm has either been already swayed in a particular direction or has, over time, been trained or even externally nudged in a particular direction. So the chances of manipulation are not trivial. And this is why, and then what happens, because there's so much of this going on and it's getting infected every aspect of life, that in fact, this just kind of spreads and spreads. And then your reality is driven by this somewhat managed algorithm that is being used to manipulate you. I'm not sure what these two gentlemen are afraid of, but I'm assuming that is roughly what they're talking about. And we are fully aware of this. But, we can't be afraid of this problem. we have to engage with
Yeah.
it.
I mean, there's two aspects.
Hmm.
One is what you're saying, where people create bubbles around themselves, echo chambers.
Yes.
Where even, sometimes then your human relationships also get affected because of your political
Absolutely.
views. So say someone who's extremely anti-Modi will surround themselves with anti-Modi people.
So this is only an ideological field. It can happen with many other things as well.
Yeah.
It can be, for example, technology frameworks.
Yeah. Or
anything.
An opinion on a football player.
Yeah.
No,
but these are opinions. But they can be also things which have, for example, you can sway, for example, does a particular kind of vaccine work or not? And that has enormous implications about what kind of vaccine becomes the standard.
Right.
So all kinds of games are played. Geopolitics can be played like this.
That's the other angle that they're speaking about.
Yeah.
They said that because ChatGPT is incorporated in America, eventually it is going to get powerful enough for the American government to also have a say in how that algorithm is developing in the future. Parallelly, China has been developing these algorithms for a while. Now, this sounds so silly, right? We just say, oh, they've been developing these algorithms, but I'm specifically talking about AI bots here. China.
So it's not the case that we don't have capability of doing AI bots, and we have in various areas using AI bots.
Okay.
The question is, let's be also clear that as things stand, the US is in a position to impose on large parts of the world the standard.
Right.
I'll give you one example. Let's take Twitter, for example. We have also tried creating coup, etc., and they work in local languages, etc. But at this juncture, Twitter cannot be recreated easily by, say, in India. Because you need everybody to be in the same place for Twitter to work. I also need the Trump to be there. I also need Biden to be there. I want Rishi Sunak to be there. I want the Japanese, Australian prime ministers to be there. I want their movie stars to be there. I want their football players to be there. I want their business. And at this juncture, it's much more unlikely. It's not impossible. It's unlikely that something done by an Indian company will take over that space when there is a clustering effect that happens from global acceptance. So the same thing with Wikipedia. You can complain. I complain all the time about Wikipedia. But the fact of the matter is, it is what it is. And despite knowing its biases, I'm also a user of Wikipedia. If I want a quick information on, a place or some scientific term, that's where I go to even myself.
Right.
Knowing that may not be exactly the true, but mota I'll get an idea what the whole thing is about. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, there are segments where we may have the clout to do it, but we cannot say that, we will do what China is doing, is close ourselves out. First of all, our political system is not set up for doing that. Secondly, in the long run...
You mean like a
closed-walled system. So first of all, we are not set up to do that. And since we are not set up to do that, it means that our population, our youth in particular, will go and use anything which is creating rapidly clustering in its own right. We may be able to do it in segments. Say, creating an AI bot to answer questions on the GST system. Now, I have a closed system there. I may be able to.
Sure.
But a general open system like ChatGPT, so far, right now, we don't have. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be aware of the risk and that we should not be pushing back in multiple ways to this. So I'll give you another example where it is not algorithms. So algorithms at least is happening here. There is much more subtle ways in which this is done. So for example, there is something called ESG. You know what this ESG is? So let me explain. ESG is environmental, social, and governance norms. Now, this is something that globally, but particularly Western governments are pushing to make this a part of all kinds of decision making. So supposing there is a fund that is going to invest or a large company that is going to invest, they are supposed to take care of something called these 3 ESG, the environment, social, and governance norms, to take decisions. So, okay. Now, sounds like a good thing to do. We should all agree, environment, social governance things are good things to do. Now, what happens, however, is these are actually subjective things. Okay, what is good for society is there's no objective thing. There, at least at the margin, a lot of it is basically somebody's opinion.
Yep.
So what now we will do is we will now create a bunch of people who will impose on you what those norms are. So let's say I accept that those norms are good. Then a ESG rating company will pop up somewhere, and then it will deconstruct to you and tell you ki this is what you should be doing. And now, because I'm stuck with this I've accepted this framework, I will have to take decisions in a particular way. So this is a well-established system already, but you have think tanks in the West, like, for example, VDEM in Sweden, or Freedom House in the US, or Chatham House in London. They are in this business of creating global narratives. So you and I may think that certain thing is actually gospel truth, but in fact, it has been put inside our head. And these things can be quite powerful. And so, for example, we recently had VDEM came out with a list of great democracies in the world. Okay, it's of 140 countries. Now, we are the world's largest democracy. We are rated 108. Okay, just above Pakistan, by the way. Okay, there is a list also some of these guys have done of academic freedom. Okay, in that list, we are rated below Afghanistan. I mean, how? Who does these things? But you see, if it is not managed, if you're not paying attention, what happens is that you may not know that this index even exists. But that index goes into another index, which goes into this ESG norm. And then your life is being run by these indices. And this is happening very systematically. And I've been writing about this for a while. We need to pay attention to it. And now what will happen is that you have now, let's say, an AI ChatGPT or something that gets trained to feed on this. So let's say in a few years, you could actually type out, is India a democracy? And ChatGPT has been trained to go and look at these specific places and come out, no, India is not a democracy. Even though blatantly you can see that it's a democracy, but ChatGPT will tell you that it is not. Because you will then create a completely alternative reality based on these things.
Yep.
So this is why I think this is something we need to be very careful about, create debate about it, and push back. Because if you don't do this actively, you will be deconstructed and told what to do. It's a form of new colonization.
Yeah, exactly. This is what they said. New clips released at the same time that a podcast releases. This is TRS Clips. Make sure you subscribe.